Hello, my dear friends. I'm your host, Samantha, and welcome to the Mooncast. How are you today? I hope you're well. I usually reserve my announcements for the end of the podcast, but this one is pretty important, so I didn't want you to miss it. Recently, I have taken two very inspiring journeys, one outside myself and one within. With growth comes change, and I am currently in the process of creating a technological expression of where I am in my own personal journey. I am simply a translator for spirit, and I go where it tells me to. As many of you know, in the last month my old account was hacked, and I was forced to all but start over. And at the time I was devastated, but this experience has given me the opportunity to really consider the direction I was heading in and to make any changes I felt needed to be made. So I'm happy to announce that in the next few days, the Sedge Witch website, as well as all social media handles, will be changing to Sedge Circle to better promote a sense of community within my followers. If you are currently following me, you will still be following me. But if you want to search for me in the future, you will use the Sedge Circle handle. What is currently titled the Mooncast will now be called Into the Sedge podcast. I will still be covering a combination of witchcraft traditions, philosophies, as well as self-exploration and improvement. Ultimately, nothing is changing save for the title and the channel artwork. My Etsy shop is currently on vacation as I prepare new items and make necessary changes so my presence is a more cohesive one. In the next month, I will be offering new wooden as well as resin rune sets as well as handmade loose incenses. And of course, I will still be making home blessing charms inspired by nature. It has always been my goal to create a space to connect to nature for anyone who wishes to. This is how Spirit is guiding me to do this. I cannot express how grateful I am to be supported by such wonderful people like you on this journey. So announcements out of the way, let's get on to the main subject at hand. If something is ancient, does that make it authentic? I feel that this is something that a lot of spiritual and magical people get caught up in from time to time. While there's definitely space for reconstruction, perhaps that shouldn't be our main goal. Once upon a time, in a dimly lit cave, someone painted the image of a buffalo. And all their friends came and saw the image of the buffalo and said, "Wow, that looks great." Many years later, a man painted images of angels on the ceiling of a church. And the people gathered and looked at the artwork and they said, "Wow, that's wonderful." All of these images, through time and history, have been implanted into our brains as symbols of archetypes. But it's important to remember that once upon a time, they were new too. One example of this is the Icelandic Vegvisir, or what is commonly referred to now as the Viking compass. Chances are at the time, it was not an actual compass. In fact, it may not have even been a magical sigil. However, in our modern times, we've given that symbol power. We allow that symbol to give us hope and to help guide us now. That isn't to say that the past isn't important. After all, as I always say, you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. And while looking to the past for inspiration and wisdom is a good thing, it's important not to get caught up in copying it. Much of the witchcraft we know about today was created out of necessity. Things like magical vinegars used for cleaning or herbs used for healing. Our ancestors weren't as detached from the spirit world and nature as we are today. And they knew that their physical bodies were planted firmly on the earth and needed care as well. What we might apply a mystical meaning to might have very well been a simple, fundamental way of living all those years ago. Our ancestors created archetypes, gods, and spells to meet their needs at the time. And our needs, they're different today. And that which doesn't evolve will surely fade into history, maybe even to be forgotten. You see, to me, magic and spirituality is more than opening a book, reading a spell, gathering the ingredients, and performing it. It's understanding that these spells were created for a reason at the time. And in order to keep these traditions and spells, archetypes and thought processes alive, they need to evolve. We need to evolve them while keeping a keen eye on where they came from. Ancient does not equal authentic. If we are creating from the heart, from our wisdom, we are creating authenticity. And of course, it will not be the same as it was before, because it shouldn't be. I will, however, warn against co-opting or adopting current, living, and guarded traditions. Many of these come from minority communities and have been preserved through much. As always, it is important to be respectful in your search for wisdom. So much is open to interpretation and evolution, and we cannot be afraid to stray from that. For me, my foundations come from nature and the spirits of nature. To me, and with them, I can never go wrong. So, I suppose that's all I have to say about that today. If you made it to the end of this podcast, thank you for staying. I look forward to embarking on this new journey with you, and hope to create a community where we support one another and we flourish. Until we meet again, my friends.